as you could tell from that little short introductory clip, this video is not going to be your typical or my typical working on a motorcycle project. That is a new generator I bought. It's a whole house generator. It is portable. It's not one of those kind that you have installed in a enclosure. It has wheels that I'll have to install. We'll talk about some of that in a few minutes. But that's really a replacement generator for the generator I bought 25 years ago. I bought it in the spring of 1997. And I decided it's time to replace that generator. It's done good service for us. It's a little bit undersized for my house. It does work, and we can get by with it when we have a power outage, which lately we've been having more often than we did the previous 4 or 5 years ago. I'd use generator maybe once a year or every couple of years. I got a generator initially back in '97 because when we first moved here in 1996, first thing we ran into was power outages, and our neighbors told us to get used to it. And in fact, that first winter we were here in '96, '97, we were without power for 2 days in the dead of winter in a blizzard, and we had to sleep in front of the gas fireplace to stay warm. And we couldn't get out of the house, couldn't get to work, the roads are closed, etc., etc. So enough of that nonsense. The next spring, I went down and bought a new generator, a new Generac 5500XL, and I had an electrician come and put a switch box on the outside of the house, tied it into the meter so that I could completely disconnect the house from the service coming in from the power company, so I didn't electrocute any electricians working on the power lines. And the first 5, 8 years we lived here, and we used the generator quite often. There was a period there in between that we, as I said a moment ago, we hardly used the generator at all, and then again 4 or 5 years ago we started running into power shortages or outages again, and I don't know why. So I started using the generator a little bit more, and in fact a few weeks ago we had a couple of pretty severe windstorms come through here, and in fact the pier that goes on to Lake Michigan, it's only like 4 or 5 miles from me, recorded wind gusts that day of 72 miles an hour, which is getting into hurricane strength winds. And as luck would have it, we lost power for about 30 hours, from 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning till about 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. So I did press my old generator into service, and it worked. It's always given me good service. I have no complaints about that, but it is starting to smoke a little bit when I started, so I think the valve guide seals are leaking. As it sits, I think oil is leaking past the seals and getting down in the combustion chamber, so when I first started, it blows smoke pretty bad for the first couple of minutes. But it runs fine. Again, as I said, I think it's a little undersized for my house. We can run the furnace, lights, the well pump. We do have a well here because we are remote. It will run the well pump, which is 240 volt. The microwave will not run on the generator, it just refuses. It must have some intelligence built into it. It's only about 18 months old, and it doesn't like the power supply coming from the generator. It just refuses to run. Once the power comes back on, the microwave is fine, but it doesn't like the generator. And generally, we can get by with the old generator, but I had to make a decision whether I was going to repair it. It is coming up on 25 years old, repair it, put in new valve guide seals, or just upscale to a larger generator. And I made the decision to go larger, and that's what you saw me unloading from my loader into the shop here. It's brand new. As you can tell, it's still in a box. I just picked it up a couple days ago, and I'm just now getting around to putting it into service. And that's really what this video is going to be about. I was originally going to show me unloading it or putting it from the bed of my truck, my little Ranger, into the loader, but it's not a very nice day outside, as you can probably tell. It's half raining, half snowing. It's just above freezing. It's a wet, sloppy mess outside, and I didn't frankly want to take my cameras outside, so I just skipped that part of it and just showed me bringing it into the shop, and that's where that introduction video came from. This generator, this new one, is a DuroMax. It is US made. It's made in California. My original, as I said, was a Generac 5500XL. I'll put up here briefly a picture of my current generator so you can see what it looks like. And you'll see the new generator here once I get it opened up and start doing what assembly is necessary to get it into service. I do have to put oil in it. It uses 10W30. I'm going to start with a Valvoline conventional petroleum-based 1030, and then eventually, once the engine has been run for a couple hours, I will change the oil, and then I will go to a Valvoline full synthetic. I'm a Valvoline person. I've always used Valvoline my whole adult life in my four-stroke engines. I like synthetic. The reason I'm using the conventional initially is primarily it's going to be drained out after an hour or two of running. I'll drain the oil out, and this is less expensive than the premium priced synthetic oil. Now I know there are people that profess, you see it all over on the internet, that you should always break in an engine on a conventional oil. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but nonetheless, I am going to use the conventional oil because it's less expensive for the initial break-in, and then I'll drain it and replace it after, like I said, after a couple hours. And it does have this generator does have a replaceable filter, a canister, just like a car, as well as the previous generator. The Generac has that same setup. So this isn't going to be an unboxing video. I'm not a big fan of those. I think shared with you before, I don't kind of get the whole point behind the unboxing thing, but so I'm not going to show you me opening up the container and yada yada. What I will show you is what I have to assemble, which I think, based on the user manual, which I did download and read through previous, obviously, to this. I have to install the handlebars, the wheels, install oil or put oil in the engine, those kind of things before I go ahead and start it for the first time. So what we're going to do now is move over to the generator, the new generator in the box. I'm going to open it up off camera, and then I'll bring you back in as I'm getting ready to think through what installation I have to complete to get the generator installed. Before I open the carton, I want to just share with you some of the specifications. Again, it's a DuroMax. You can see right there. They're becoming quite popular, as I understand it, in the generator field. They've become quite a competitor to Generac. In particular, take note of the power output here. It's a 10,500 watt running watts. That is, under continuous load, 10,500 watts. My current one is 5,500, so it's almost twice the size. And the peak watts, or surge watts, is 13,000. And again, I'm fully expecting this will power everything that we need easily going forward. And again, there's some wattage reference information over here on the lower right. This is a pretty heavy unit. She's pretty stout. It probably weighs, I don't know exactly, but it's easily probably 250 to 300 pounds. And that's why you obviously need wheels. You'll never move it otherwise without equipment like a forklift or high-low or a bucket on a loader or something like that. But the reason I bought it was because of the power output right here. And to take care of the energy needs in our house. Now, one thing I did want to talk about, this generator does not produce clean power. And what I mean by that is that, in fact, most generators don't produce clean power unless you get very high end or you get into the inverter generators, which this is not. This produces a relatively dirty power, and that is that things, components in your home that are sensitive, electronics, computers, high-end TVs, entertainment systems, don't like the power that this unit would produce. I even went to the DuroMax website and looked up their stance or position on producing clean power. And I won't go into all the details, the electrical theory here. That's not what this is about. But They even suggest that if you have sensitive electronics that are being powered by this generator, or any of their generators, I think for that matter, that you should have line filters in place, which I actually do in my house. My main computer setup in the house, as well as my entertainment system, has surge protectors with built-in line filters to protect them from current surges, from electrical storms, as well as dirty power that this unit would produce. Nonetheless, when I'm running on a generator, I do unplug everything that I can that's sensitive, i.e. the computer, the printer, my NAS server, all that kind of equipment gets unplugged. My entertainment system, my big screen TV, my DVR, my Blu-ray player is all plugged into a very high-end surge protector and line filter that actually my insurance company provided me years ago because of a power surge that took all of that out. My insurance had to pay for it, and they bought me that high-end surge and filter combination, which works fine, protect the equipment from this generator. Everything else pretty much gets disconnected. Obviously the furnace, refrigerator, we have a freezer in the basement, they work fine with this equipment. But just be aware, this is not a clean power generator, and most open frame generators of this type are not. So I'm going to go ahead now and open it up, and then we'll come back and take a look at what's inside. And I have the generator out of the box per the instructions. By the way, in case you haven't figured it out, I am an instruction reader. I studied the owner's manual of this unit before I even bought it. And it did come with an owner's manual, very nice printed owner's manual. If I think about it, I'll share that or show that to you later. But according to the setup instructions, you're to take it out of the box, turn it upside down. Of course, there's no oil in this or fuel at this point. They ship it dry. You can see I've got some tools arranged right there. This is metric apparently, from what I can tell. It uses 12, 13, and 10, 12, 13, and 15 millimeters fasteners to hold that orange. See that brace right there? That red-orange brace. That's a shipping brace. And I have to remove that before I flip it back over and put the engine oil in it. So that's what we're going to do now. You can see right there that yellow and black sticker or label. That is a warning to be sure to remove that shipping brace. That's all that's for. There are 4 bolts holding this red shipping brace in place. There's 2 here, 1 and 2, and then there's 2 that go vertical from your orientation where you're at right now that go into the base of the engine. I don't think it makes any difference which ones you remove first. I think I'm going to go ahead and start with probably this one first. And so there's the shipping brace removed along with the 4 nuts and bolts that are used to locate it. These parts now are disposable. They are not reused. They can be thrown away or recycled or salvaged. I'll save, obviously, all these parts, put this in my scrap metal bin, and the fasteners I'll keep around in my spare hardware inventory. Here's the hardware kit that came with the generator, a funnel up there for filling the crankcase with oil with a little spout on it or a piece of PVC tubing. Wheels, of course. Up in that bag there, I believe those are the bumpers that go on the bottom of the frame to allow the frame to be leveled when you use the wheels. Couplers here, electrical plugs to attach to your cord that goes to your house. I already have a cord installed, so I won't be needing those. And of course, along the bottom here are the handles that I'll be installing here shortly. I mentioned a few minutes ago that I had already downloaded the owner's manual for this unit. This is the one that came in the box. This was not included in the hardware. It was sitting on top of the generator when I opened the box up initially. But I already have been through this. This is just a hard copy And of course I have in the PDF format saved on my household computer on my server so that I always will have it readily available. And I will eventually file this away. There are two what they call support legs that fit on this metal plate. The wheels will go on the opposite end. These are 13 millimeter fasteners, so according to pictures they go in these holes, even though there's two sets of holes drilled. And we'll just go ahead and add these self-locking nuts and tighten everything up. Now we're going to install the axles. That's what this is right here with this big flange nut. These are 17 millimeter nuts, or take a 17 millimeter wrench more appropriately. And they just fit through like that. And tighten everything up. One thing I didn't point out is the outer side of the axle right here has a flat on it so that you can hold it in place while you tighten this nut. That's a 19 millimeter. I was getting ready to install the wheels. I noticed one problem, and if you can see it there, but two of the bolts are missing. There's supposed to be 4 bolts, like you see in that wheel. 2 of them were missing. One of them, this one, I found in the bottom of the hardware box. The other one's missing. I haven't found it yet. It might be around here somewhere, but I have not found it. So what I did do is I went to my spare hardware inventory and I found a replacement that's exactly, this is the one in my left hand right here. That's exactly the same size. That's an 8 millimeter threaded bolt. And again, this is the replacement out of my inventory. This is the one that came out of the wheel, along with a washer, lock washer, and a nut. So I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 fasteners in this wheel, and then we'll go ahead and mount the wheels. I've got the missing, or originally was missing bolt replaced right here. I'm pointing to it. And the lock washer and nut on the back side, of course, and then installed the one that was loose in the hardware kit right here. And then I went around and checked the bolts on both wheels to make sure they're all tight, and they are, or were. So I had no idea what happened, but something along the way went wrong. I might find that hardware before it's over, we'll see. This assembly is real straightforward. There's a couple of large washers that go in the axle like that, one on the inside. Wheel assembly goes on, then one on the outside, like that. And then there's a split pin right here, or a cotter pin as we normally call them in North America. It goes through like that. And then we will just bend that over. Like that, and I will repeat that on the opposite side. I'm going to go ahead now and install the handlebars. There's 2, of course, one here and one here, and they mount to these brackets that are welded to the frame on each side. They're designed to collapse down against the frame like this when they're not in use, and then you just rotate them up when you need to use them, and it's just attached with a simple nut and bolt combination right there. Instructions warn about not to over tighten these fasteners, because what you'll do, you'll collapse the ears of it in against the bracket, and you'll restrict its movement. So you want to have them snug but not overly tightened, or else it won't rotate. The only thing we have left to do besides putting fuel in the fuel tank and starting it is put the engine oil in, probably the most important part. I have the generator moved to a nice level spot in the shop. I've checked it in both directions with a level, and it is sitting nice and level right now. You can see I have the provided funnel inserted into the filler hole right there in the block, and I have the 2 quarts, 2 liters of oil ready to go. This engine requires 40.5 ounces of oil or 1.2 liters. I am using a 1030, which is what's recommended in my climate. Even though we have a cold climate, 1030 is recommended, I think, down to negative Fahrenheit anyway, down to negative 10. And I don't think I would ever be running this generator below that. So I'm going to go ahead and use 1030. And this is going to be the second of the 2 bottles. The first quart or liter, I'll put the entire thing in. And then I will fill down to about where this line is. I will bring this down to here. And that will be the difference between approximately 32 and 40.5 ounces of oil. There is a dipstick also. See right there, that you can use to check the oil. And that's approximately 40.5 fluid ounces, 1.2 liters of engine oil. Yep, right on the button. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right to the full mark. Why don't we review where we're at right now? And one thing I did neglect to mention is that the unit did come with a full toolkit, just like the old Japanese motorcycles, or even the new one, as far as I know. I had this complete toolkit. I didn't use this, of course, to put it together. I used my own tools, but they did supply the right tools. Anyway, we got the legs installed with the bumpers. We got the wheels, handlebars, engine oil are all installed. Battery for the electric start, and this, of course, is electric start. This is a 20 horsepower motor, by the way. In my other one, my little Generac is 13, I believe. So this is quite a bit larger engine, single cylinder. The battery pack is behind that cover right there, and it has been shipped with the ground strap disconnected so that the battery doesn't discharge in storage. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take that cover off. I'll put my battery charger on it and poke that battery a bit just to make sure it's fresh. Probably do that overnight, and then tomorrow I'll come back and I'll put fuel in it, finish hooking up the battery, and then we'll see if we can't get it started. It's the next morning, and it's all put back together. Battery's buttoned up. Just a note on the battery, it only charged on my new charger for about 25-30 minutes, then the charger kicked off and it went into maintenance mode, which tells me the battery was pretty much charged already, but I did verify that, so it's all connected, everything's back together. At this point, it's about ready to start, and what we're going to do in a few minutes is we'll take it outside. I won't run this in the shop, I'll take it right outside. I have to put fuel in it yet. See the fuel filler cap right on top. And we'll see if we can't get it started. Again, it's electric start. I do first want to do a little up close look at the control panel right here. So we'll reposition the camera and we'll briefly talk through the configuration of the panel and the connections and all the rest. It has a pretty extensive control panel. Some generators come with covers over the electrical plugs. That would be these four right here. I would typically use one of these two right here. In fact, I think my cord has a plug that matches this outlet right here. And again, the matching male plugs do come with this generator, though I don't need them. The rest of the control panel, you have here the battery switch right there. That's essentially your ignition switch or your on-off switch. You have the idle control. Idle control is used when the engine's not under load. Otherwise, this is designed to run at full tilt, full RPM to produce maximum amount of power. But for some reason, if you're not drawing power, you switch this into on and it'll bring it down to an idle once demand from the electrical system decreases. Breaker switch right here, which controls power to these outlets. Normally you would start it with the breaker switch in the off position like you see here. This is a meter, and there's a little button here you probably can't see right there, and you can cycle through 3 settings. It'll show you voltage, output, hertz, and the hours run, which is helpful when you're trying to determine service intervals such as oil changes. It also has a 12-volt outlet here. I didn't talk about that a moment ago. You have various breakers along in here, as well as the start switch. So in order to start this unit, you'd switch the battery on, and then you hit that button, and it would, crank the engine over, and it doesn't have a choke, so it would be, essentially an automatic choke. It should start on its own. When you're done running it, after you shut off all the breakers, you hit the button again, the same button, and it would kill the engine. This is a very nice setup they have here. It's quite a bit more extensive than my current generator, which basically has an idle control, the battery or on-off switches on the engine itself. It does have, the other one has a manual choke. It doesn't have most of these other features outside of the outlets itself. What we'll do now is I'll take it outside, put fuel in it, and we'll see if we can't get it started. Added a couple of gallons of fresh ethanol-free fuel, the only kind of fuel I use in my small engines. I've turned the fuel valve on, which is right underneath here, to fill the fuel system with fresh fuel. The only things I have left to do is turn the battery switch on, and the idle control is already off, and hit the start button. So let's go give her a try. See, the light came on, I think, probably. Breaker is off. Idle control is off. I think we're ready to go. Well, there we have it. She started right up, so I certainly consider that a success. Just push that button there for just a second. By the way, you just have to push it. You don't have to hold it. You push it and let it go, and it takes over. It's not like a key switch that you have to hold it in place. She started right up, of course, and had a little bit of a surge at the beginning as it's purging the air out of the fuel system, but then it settled right down to a nice, smooth operation. And I think it's about ready to go. So now I'm going to take it up to the house, and I will connect it to the home electrical system and test it, test the power output. I'll run it for a few more minutes before I do that, make sure she's good and warm, and then she will be, I think, ready for service. Now, I don't store my generators outside. They are stored in the garage, and then I pull it outside onto a pad behind my garage. That's free air. It's open to the air, and that's where I plug it into the power panel and run it. You never, ever, ever run a generator in an enclosed space, even a garage, if the door is open, because the fumes can still get drawn into the house. So though I store it outside or inside, I do run it only outside, and it's always kept covered in the garage to keep it clean and dry. That's going to be it for this video today, folks. I hope you found it of interest, a little bit different than normal, my normal videos. Thought some folks might be interested in this. Any issues, questions, thoughts, drop me a note. Otherwise, as usual, thanks for watching.